She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today. Oh my gosh.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to 5 Lemons Laughing. This is Morgan. We are still missing our beloved Amanda. She's still taking some time off, and we are excited to welcome Sarah. Sarah Shearer is our guest today.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
So Sarah is actually my prayer partner. We've been prayer partners for about 2 years now, and she's my spiritual counselor. We trade counseling sessions every week. She counsels me one week, I counsel her the next. We both signed up for the spiritual counseling program at the Power of Love Ministry at the same time. So yeah, she's a dear friend. She actually, after 5 some odd years of knowing each other online, she came to visit me in Costa Rica just a few weeks ago. So she stayed with me for about a week. We had so much fun. And now I get to welcome her as a guest on our show. So I know I left so much out of that introduction. Sarah, I'm going to pass it to you and let you tell us a little bit more about your background spiritually and what you do for a living, and anything else that you'd like to share with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I had a wonderful time in Costa Rica. It was beautiful. Yes, I'm Sarah Shearer, and I have been involved with Power of Love Ministries since 2019. Went through Jennifer Hadley's programs with Penny and Morgan and Melissa, and I'm currently prayer partners with Morgan. Everything she just said, I won't repeat it. And so right now I am working towards my spiritual counseling certification. But my main thing that I do is I am an online nutrition coach and personal trainer. And I've been involved in that world since 2009. I originally went to school for fashion design, and I was working as a in-house designer for a big department store that you've probably all shopped at before in Texas, based out of Texas, for about 6 years, and always had this like draw to fitness and nutrition, mainly because I struggled with it since a young age. I was pretty sure I had binge eating disorder by about the 8th grade. And I asked my mom if I could go to therapy. Like, I knew something wasn't right. I would just eat and eat until I was sick. And I tried purging, and that didn't work. I tried over exercising, and that would work for a time. But then, you can only keep that up so long. So I went back and forth with these things for years and years and years. But it was also the pathway to my spiritual practice, because during that time, when I was about 14, maybe 15, I found Janine Roth's work, and her work is very spiritual centered. She's into Buddhism. So I read all of her books over and over. She had a book called Women, Food, and God that was really influential to me. And I went to the retreat and still struggled. I was probably 30 when I went to her retreat. I'm going to be 42 in 2 weeks. And this was about 12 years ago. And around 34, I got married and was was still having food issues. I got pregnant with my daughter. I mean, it just continued and continued. And during that year when I was pregnant, I was having a lot of identity struggles because I couldn't focus on my body anymore. Like I couldn't focus on trying to lose weight anymore because I was pregnant. Like, who cares, And so I kind of lost that identification, and I had a lot of struggles in my marriage in the beginning. So I kept hearing about A Course in Miracles over the years of all this spiritual study. And I was reaching out to people I knew, like, do you know of a study group? Do you know anything? Nobody did. But I remember hearing it's self-study. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to study this. I'm going to figure out what it means, because it felt like a different language trying to read. I'm sure you can all relate to that when you first pick it up. And my husband had gotten into podcasts. So I thought maybe there's a podcast that I can learn about A Course in Miracles from. And I typed it in, and Jennifer Hadley's podcast came up. And that day I happened to have a day off work. I was a personal trainer at that point. And it was like a random Wednesday that I just didn't have any clients. So I spent the whole day binging Jennifer's podcasts, and I ordered Gary Renard's books because he was like one of her first guests. And after my daughter was born, I found a way of eating. I've been listening to Jennifer for close to a year, like nonstop, and studying the course. And after my daughter was born, I finally found a way of eating that helped me like dissolve all of these issues with the spiritual work, and these ways of being kind of showed up, and the way I looked at them changed. And I'll get more into that in a second. But I signed up for Jennifer's Masterful Living program when my daughter was about a year and a half. And that was the last, that Christmas break before I started Masterful Living was the last time I ever binge ate to the point of like feeling sick. And that was something I had struggled with for 30 years at that point.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you attribute that to the spiritual work that you did in the Masterful Living course, or is the timing just coincidental? Or,
when I tell the story and I look back on it, I didn't see the correlation. But now looking back, it's like, okay, I was doing all this work at the level of the mind with studying the course and listening to Jennifer, that something shifted in my perception of what I was doing that helped me to see food differently and helped me to see my strategy differently, and finally find something that actually really works well for me.
Yep. Right. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, I didn't mean to completely.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't want to talk too long. So what did I find that works really well for me? You might be wondering. Okay, so I tried everything over the years. I was actually a bikini competitor in my early 30s. So I had a coach. I got on stage in the orange spray tan and the swimsuit, and I was skinny as a rail. And that was a big letdown. I thought it would be like this big high, and it was for like a day. But then as soon as it was over, I was like, I did all this work and now it's over. What else did I do? I did Whole30. I did Body for Life. I did clean eating. I did juice fasts. I would try to just fast completely sometimes. You name it, I did it for some point. Oh, I had my special 21-day diet that I would do whenever I felt like I needed to slim down, where you would only eat protein and vegetables for 21 days. And, in your 20s, it works. You just drop the weight. But every 21 days would be followed by a massive binge, because that's the law of the universe. For every diet, there's an equal and opposite binge. So, during the time I met my husband, I had learned about macro tracking, which is basically calorie counting, but you're tracking the macronutrients of your food and how much protein, fat, and carbs you're taking in. And I didn't fully get the concept, I don't think, because I was so brought up in the eat less, exercise more mentality. And I always thought like, okay, I need to eat low calorie to lose the weight. I need to do spin. I need to work. I need to lift weights. I need to run. I need to do all the things. That was just my mentality. And then after my daughter was born, because I didn't diet at all while I was pregnant, but I still worked out because working out was always a big part of my life. I decided I was going to go back to tracking macros, and I actually ate enough. I figured out how much food I actually needed to support my workouts and support nursing a baby. And I started losing weight, and I wasn't starving myself anymore. And I was eating food, any food, as long as it fit the macros. So it helped me to take away these beliefs and these labels that certain foods are good, certain foods are bad. If I eat cookies, I'm going to gain weight. If I eat pizza, it helped me to get myself out of this prison that I created for, 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. I didn't see it at the time, but
well,
now it seems like it all fit together.
Yeah. Well, and we know from our conversations that food and body stuff is a big thing for a lot of people. And we also know that people's challenges may look different from person to person. Like for some people it's food, for some people it's money, for some people it's relationships, for some people it's all of the above. But the root is really the same for all of them, which I guess is unworthiness or unconscious guilt.
Yeah.
And looking for love in all the wrong places. That's kind of my theme. Mm-hmm. My life. I didn't necessarily do it in exercise and food, but everything else. Mm-hmm. So it sounds to me like a lot of my life that I searched for something to change about myself or something to find my source outside of myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that all of the searching ultimately is what led you to your spiritual path, like the spiritual books and the self-help books, which led to A Course in Miracles and the podcast and the spiritual community. Like it all was part of a larger plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And the part I didn't share yet, because I just came to my mind to share, is so I got to that point in Masterful Living and I lost the weight. I was keeping it off. I was feeling great. And then I had a whole other identity crisis come up where I got really sick and found out that I had inflammatory bowel disease. And it was showing up as inflammation in my body, which unconscious guilt, that went on for 6-8 months. And then finally I got so sick and ended up in the hospital. But because of that, I saw myself as this fit person. I was really into CrossFit. That was a big part of my identity. I quit CrossFit. I got down to 100 pounds. I looked very sick. Couldn't even get off the couch for 2 months before I could even just walk down the street after that. I was in and out of the hospital for about a month. And so I basically had to start all over, but from the ground up this time. So it's been 2 years since that happened now. And if you were to look at me, you'd think, well, that never happened to her if you didn't know me, but it did. So I got the opportunity to start over from a completely different mental, spiritual level of doing it for health, doing it for nourishment, doing it for pure enjoyment over trying to look a certain way or weigh a certain number or whatever because of what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you took all your life experience and what you were doing in the world and with your body, and you have now created a spiritual program, right? In your that accompanies your wellness coaching and your nutrition?
So they aren't fully integrated yet. What I do right now is I use what I've learned from my spiritual practice and spiritual counseling to be a better coach. So I haven't created a program yet that fully brings spirituality into food and fitness, but I definitely integrate it in my approach with people.
And you have the experience. I mean, that what I'm saying is like that experience has led you to marry the two and to really be of service for people who are struggling with the same things you struggled with, and you have a spiritual solution for it, for the searching and for the body.
Like one of my like best clients, like one of the ones that I'm so happy that's with me, is she came in exactly how I used to be. She thought she had to restrict and deprive herself. And she thought that that's the only way she could lose weight. That was the only way she could be happy, was if she lost weight. And we've worked together, and now she eats enough to nourish herself, and she feels good, and the weight's coming off, and she's doing things she wasn't doing before. And she's learning that it's like not, the reward isn't in the weight loss. The reward is in the process, and it's in loving yourself no matter what's going on, no matter what you weigh, and no matter where you're at on the journey. And that's what I strive to teach. Now, I do still sometimes attract people that they just want to lose the weight. And, but
but that may be their path to something more.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a question, Sarah, and you may have, the answer, or you may not have gone down the path. Was there something that you found as a young kid before the age of 8, I guess, that may have set you on that path?
That's a great question. Yeah. So there was an emphasis on looks and body weight in my house from a very young age. And I've got some old pictures of me when I was like a toddler. Like, my daughter's younger than my daughter. My daughter's 6. And I had a very round face and a chubby little body. And I think I started getting the message really young that I needed to lose weight. I needed to be thinner to be accepted, to be loved. And then also, my dad is an alcoholic, and he still is to this day. So I think that I don't know. It was like I picked up on some messaging young, and it turned into me worrying about my body, and then eating as a coping mechanism because I didn't know how to deal with my feelings. And the eating started, my dad was laid off from his job the summer before I went into 3rd grade. So I was like 8. And that was the summer the binge eating started, because he was at home with my brother and I. And I remember saying I wanted to run away from home. I don't remember why I said it. I just remember feeling that.
That's tough.
I also remember my brother was thin and I wasn't, and this young of an age. And I remember trying to emulate his plate, like eating how much he ate on his plate, thinking that maybe if I could do that, then I could be thin too.
Right.
And do you think your brother also had a desire to be thin, to be loved, or was it just that kind of boy makeup?
I think it was just how he was genetically. Yeah.
So, my thoughts about body, and I know you were part of the intensive, or the training that Jennifer Hadley did over the summer, Change Your Mind About Your Body, which was amazing. And I am, one of those people who I just ride this wave of sometimes I'm so in love with my body just because I think it's powerful, all the right reasons. And then other times I hate it for all the wrong reasons and the right reasons, all of that. But tell me a little bit about how you balance the working in the field of nutrition and working with the body and balancing of not putting too much into that, right? From a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I am fully aware that the body's a projection, and I'm starting to see it as like, this is this character that I'm observing, and she's over here doing all this stuff. And, so like working out for me has become more about getting stronger and enjoyment than it is about like a physical look. Do I want to look fit? Do I want to look muscular? Sure. But is it like what I'm dreaming about or thinking about? No, it's just a byproduct of doing something that I love to do. But for clients, that is challenging. For a lot of them, it is the scale's up today. What's wrong? Like, I'm not losing as fast as I would like to. And I do a lot of reassuring that scale fluctuations are normal. 3 to 5 pounds in a day is normal. How much salt you eat is normal. When you last had a bowel movement, it's all very normal to fluctuate. Our bodies aren't static. And it's actually really, really good if you're actively working to lose weight, to lose a pound a week. Anything other than that is actually really aggressive. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about Course in Miracles, when the Course of Miracles talks so much about you're not a body? Mm-hmm. And so how do you, I'm not into, my career is not nutrition and health and body stuff. And I struggle with it. Like, I can't imagine it being my career and also having that belief that you're not a body. So how do you work through all that?
It's such a good question, because it's like, I'm just not attached to it anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, going through the illness and feel like I was at the point when I went through the illness that I did not care if I died, because I felt so horrible. And I fully believe that this is just one stopping point. So if that was what was meant to happen, so be it. And so when it comes to like making choices about food, it's like, I'm very aware of what feels good and what doesn't. And if I choose something that I know isn't going to feel good, I choose it with full awareness. Like, okay, if I eat this piece of cake, I'm going to get a big sugar rush and a sugar crash, but I really want to eat this piece of cake today, so I'm going to have it. And I just know it's just like a chemical reaction, and this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yes. That answers the question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm curious if you, and maybe you already spoke to this, but if so, I'm just going to ask you to repeat it, but I don't think I caught it. So did you identify the beliefs that were at the root of your cycle? I know we traced it back to your childhood, but did you go like what the beliefs were, and have you identified any like in your clients that are common? Yeah.
So for me, it was very much unworthiness. I mean, I still struggle with unworthiness to this day. That's like the root core thing. Like when I went to Janine Ross retreat, we had to write what was our root issue. This was, 12 years ago. And I said, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. That was what it was. I was in fashion prior to being in fitness. So all these very like look-centered career choices. So I thought, like, if I get skinnier, if I were prettier, I'll be enough. And I think that for my clients, a lot of it is that, but a lot of it is like they backburnered themselves for so long to care for other people or to care about their careers or just like not treating themselves well, that they've ended up in a place where they're 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight. They don't have energy. They don't feel good about themselves. And so we work on the nutrition, we work on the fitness, but we also work on the thought processes too.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. That sounds to me like how you're integrating the spiritual work, even if you're not labeling it as that, like you're not advertising it as such, but working at the level of the mind is the spiritual work. It makes me think of the New Testament verse, let them who have ears to hear. Like you're bringing that spiritual component, just not in an overt, like in your face way.
Yeah.
But I do think that would be a good niche market, because I know when I was looking for a therapist before I joined this online spiritual community, when I was looking for a therapist, I remember searching the internet for like a Course in Miracles therapist or spiritual therapist, but then it brought up a bunch of Christian ones. And I specifically wanted like not a Christian one, but a spiritual one. And like, so I could see someone who has that spiritual practice, is maybe studying A Course in Miracles or some other non-dual teaching, and has the awareness that they're not a body, and yet body issues are still their thing, specifically seeking out an A Course in Miracles, like nutrition and health coach or something like that.
Yeah. I kicked around the idea of just starting over and calling it that. I think I'll know when the time is right.
Yeah.
Really feel ready for that yet. Like there's still more to learn and do on the path that I'm on. But my motto is kind of like, sell them what they want, give them what they need. So I talk about weight loss. I talk about getting toned, getting fit, but then we start working on this stuff because there's always a reason that you're not there. If that's what you want, there's something holding you back. There's some belief that I can't do it. It's too hard. I'm not worthy of it. I don't have time. And then if we can take those blocks away, then it changes.
Right. Yeah. So what about you other ladies? What do you have any nutrition or fitness or other body related goals that some belief prevents you from having success in that area? Is that too broad of a question?
That's a hell yes.
Like what, how do you, like, I have a question for you, Sarah. This is Penny. And I'm curious. So I don't know about the rest of you in this room today, but I've done many things. I've went up and down in the scale. I'm up right now and not very happy with it, by the way. And so I'm curious, what do you say to your clients when they say, well, I'm pretty sure this isn't going to work for me either?
I'll say, trust the process, give it time, because they usually only say that in the beginning. And then once they start the process, they start to see it actually work. Mm-hmm. Because what I do is I lay out a very specific protocol for them to follow of this many carbs, fats, and proteins. But you can eat your Cheetos for your carbs if you want. You can but you're not going to feel good if you do that, but you can do it if you want. And so people learn how to eat mostly healthy foods, the foods that nourish, the foods that are satisfying, and how to actually be satisfied. Because if we're satisfied and we're getting enough of all of these nutrients, we're not craving this extra stuff. And then if we can take it away physically, like the physical cravings, then it helps with the mental. Because when we're hungry and we're not nourished properly, it starts to affect our thoughts, or starts to affect our thoughts, would start to affect our feelings, would start to affect our choices. Because I know for me, when I'm tired at the end of the day, that's when the negative thoughts creep up. But if I was hungry on top of that, then it's even worse. So if you're nourished properly, you're more likely to make good choices too.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what if you want to have all the good food and also some of that food that may not make you feel so well? All at the same time.
It's a choice. And, and I teach my clients too to balance it. So if you have a day that's like way up here, maybe the rest of the week you do a little bit less, and it evens out for the course of the week, because our body doesn't work in 24 hours. Like what you do in one day will not make or break you. It's what you do over time. So like when I went to visit Morgan, I loosely kept track of what I was eating just because I've done this for so long. And there was a day I ate 3,000 calories plus, I'm certain of it. But so what? It's what I do over time. And I did a little less the day after and a little less the day after that. And it wasn't like a super conscious thing either. Because if you learn to listen to your body, it will tell you, hey, I'm hungry. I need fed. I'm satisfied. I don't need any more. Feed me right now. So we can tune into those signals as well.
Yeah. And I follow Sarah on Instagram, and she shares a lot of times like what she's eating for the day. And it doesn't look like, it all looks super yummy. It doesn't look like salads and steamed veggies and grilled chicken. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and I do eat that stuff, but it's not it. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, if you tell me I can't have something, I'm going to want it even more. We've got to take away the guilt. There's so much food guilt out there. And so much food judgment out there. People will say like, oh, I'm being bad. I'm having a cheat meal. And you can I can feel it. I'm like it just, cause I could sense the guilt, and it's icky because I used to be that person. And we don't have to be that. We don't have to live that way.
I think that I don't think I know any female that doesn't have some kind of body, or having had been through some kind of body issues, or like just all the reflection on our bodies and who we are, like in our society, is about our bodies, especially being female. And especially as little sponges, young little people, we soak all that in. I was going to weight loss clinic when I was like 12.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was my idea. That could have been my mother's idea. What the hell?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
I remember having a neighbor that was 12 that was in Weight Watchers. Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe I purposefully don't focus that much on a lot of control in that area, because it might feel so out of control. I'm not sure, or I am definitely a full-on A-typer, like pusher, but I do it in different areas. I don't do it in food and body. I do it in money and career and, every other things. But I think I want to say that I do it that way because growing up, when my body stuff was so painful, I remember saying to my mother once, I can't believe this guy wants to be my friend because I'm so fat. And I was like 15.
Yeah.
And so again, I just don't know how people I don't know how women don't have some kind of unconscious beliefs about their bodies.
Yeah, we all do. I think we all do. And I still catch mine. I mean, I've told Morgan this. I'm self-conscious about my thighs still. I still think they're too big. And I told my friend that recently, and she said, "Why?" She's like, "Hasn't anybody told you big butts and thighs are in?" And I said, "Well, I grew up in the 90s with the supermodels, and
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a tough crowd in the 90s.
Yeah.
I have another question, Sarah. So, and I think it goes back maybe to what you referenced about taking out the guilt. And I heard Jennifer mention a few times in her podcast about, I think maybe she ate an apple or someone ate an apple and it freaked her out because it wasn't organic or something like that. And I think the lesson of it in the end was it's all neutral.
Yeah.
And not to make anything bad. That's kind of the approach I take, kind of like Melissa. I don't want to get back into, I'm almost afraid to kind of put too much emphasis on my body and weight because I, like you, grew up with a family that put so much emphasis on it that I dare even go down that path. I enjoy exercising and I enjoy good food. There you have it. That's life for me. But do you use that perspective at all with your clients? It seems like a pretty easy baseline of just don't make it,
Yeah, everything is neutral. I mean, yes, there's food quality. Yes, some things are more nutritious than others, but I mean, it's how you think about it. And it's, my other saying is the dose makes the poison. So if you're eating, bags of MSG every single day, but that might have one effect on you. But if you eat one little bag of chips once a week, so what, So that's kind of the thing. It's like everything in moderation is absolutely A-okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think when we get into the actual application of some of these things, it's real easy as spiritual students to think oh, this shouldn't affect me. I should be more evolved than to think that, this non-organic vegetable is going to poison my body. Because on some level, we all believe and know and affirm that we're not a body and that the mind is all powerful. And it's just our belief in whatever that is actually causing the harm, not the actual thing. But we're not, I don't think we're there yet. And pretend that we are where we're not, and to not go to the doctor when our arm gets chopped off and just to think, oh, well, I'm not a body. It's all good. It's just so I appreciate that you are a practicing spiritual student, and you're working at the level of the mind and you're working at the level of form, because that is our experience right now. We haven't transcended the body. We haven't, I know Jesus said this, and more shall you do, but I know that's possible for me, but I don't think I'm there yet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of the big things from Jennifer's Change Your Mind About Your Body was, I'm not a body, but I have a body. Mm-hmm. So we can care for the body. We can hear all the research and decide, well, maybe I would like to not eat non-organic food as much as possible, but you can't control it 100%. You go to a restaurant and you don't know what they're using. But so you're going to not go to a restaurant, or you can decide, there's nothing wrong with sugar, but I don't like how I feel when I eat a lot of it. So maybe I won't have a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. Those are really great points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is the only way someone could access, so you taught 2 classes at the Change Your Mind About Your Body?
I did. Yes. I taught one about intuitive eating, which is sort of like the baseline for what I was talking about tuning into your hunger and your fullness to understand, okay, am I actually hungry? What am I hungry for? Can I stop here? It's kind of like my base level of nutrition. And then the other stuff I was talking about, macros, is more technical. So that is what I do in my business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if anybody wanted to access those classes, they would have to buy the whole Change Your Mind program, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Which is still a good value. It's like $397 for 20 something different A Course in Miracles.
And I will tell you, I've listened to all of the recordings and they're so good. They're so good. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've spoken at Sundays with Spirit a couple of times.
A couple of times. Yes.
Is there anywhere, if someone wanted to listen to any of your teachings or work with you, how would that go?
If you want to find me online, you can find me at Shearer, my last name, SHEARER, nutrition.com. And I list the nutrition services, fitness services, and also spiritual counseling on my services page. But if you want to kind of learn more about my nutrition business and my philosophy around all of that, you can follow me on Instagram at sarah.shearer.coaching or find me on Facebook just under my name.
Cool. Way to put yourself out there, Sarah.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do we have any questions?
I just have this feeling it's all coming together. I see that you have found spiritual answers to some of your more living in the world questions and struggles. And I see that spiritual answers could be the answer to a lot of people's weight problems, and obviously worthiness, identity. I think it's really exciting to think of a lot of people who are struggling could really find help and love for themselves using their body with spiritual answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And it'll all come together, I think.
Yeah.
Because I've been on this path for a really long time. I even went to Overeaters Anonymous at one point, and that was what they said, that it's the weight problem is a spiritual problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. For me it's the money stuff. The money problems are a spiritual problem. And Melissa and I meet every single week to talk about abundance and finance. And it is such a persistent mind training that I have to be consistent with it, or those old beliefs will take root again. So it's I could see that same consistency being so important regardless of what your issue is.
Yeah, definitely. And you two ladies are rubbing off on me with the finance stuff because Morgan's been telling me what books you're reading, and I'm reading them too.
Well, I think I see that separation is my problem, which is the basis of Course in Miracles, separation from a higher power or source. Mm-hmm. And my issues with that do manifest in career and money and that kind of thing. But now I'm starting to see it as a gift. It's money and finances are a way I can heal my way back to source.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can see that happening, same with a lot of people with their body.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And food and body go together. Food and money go together. The way you believe about food in your body, it translates into your beliefs about money. Right. So when I was struggling with food, I was in debt. I was worried about money all the time. And now I have zero debt at all besides my mortgage. I make a consistent income as an entrepreneur. So it's all healing.
Yeah. Your whole testimony is so powerful. And I feel like we just scratched the surface, because like your journey with when you got sick a couple of years ago, we just barely got into that. Your journey with quitting your job and starting your own business when you were in Masterful Living year 1 with us, that is a whole inspirational story. And your food journey since you were a child, like there's just so many layers to your testimony, and they're all so powerful and so inspirational. So we'll have to dig into those another time.
Yeah, I'd love to come back sometime in the future if you'd like, and we can talk more about it.
Love it.
Okay. Penny, do you have any Post-its for us today?
I have a couple. First, it's all neutral. Everything is neutral. That was a big thing. And then just fill in the blank. Whatever it is that's bothering you will help me heal back to source. I love that, Melissa, when you said that. That was just awesome. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, Sarah.
Thank you. This was fun.
So anything else, Sarah? You mentioned your website and your social media handles. Is there anything else you wanted to tell our audience before we sign off?
I think that's it. I do one-on-one coaching for nutrition and fitness, or nutrition only. And I do small group programs. I have one starting next week. It focuses on metabolism, building your metabolism through nutrition, movement, rest, and mindset. So it covers all the things I was talking about today. And I run that 3 to 4 times a year. It's called Light It Up, because we're lighting up our metabolisms. So you can learn more about that on my social media or website. It's actually not on my website, on my social media.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We are 5 Lemons Laughing. You can find us online at 5lemonslaughing.com, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the different podcast hosting platforms. And we're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And we love you. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Sarah.